Welcome to the Music Habits Podcast, episode 62.
Welcome to the Ableton and Music Habits Podcast. Actionable music production tips to take your music to the next level. And now, your host, Jason Timothy.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's that time of year. If you're listening to this around the time that this has been posted, it is December, and December begins the evaluation process of the goals that you set earlier in the year, what you've nailed, and where you have failed. So while some of us rejoice in how far we've come in a single year, most of us kind of feel let down by ourselves about our own results. This cycle tends to repeat year after year, and you convince yourself that this is just the way it is. And the fact of the matter is, you could actually change this. For most of us, making a goal and a plan and sticking to it isn't as easy as expected, especially if the goal is related to a passion instead of a survival necessity. So you don't have to make music. Nobody dies or goes hungry if we fail to meet our music goals. Because of this, it's the first thing to go when we find life getting busy, which it always does. Like many of us clutter our living spaces, we also tend to clutter our time. So any free time we have tends to be cluttered with one thing or another that may seem like a necessity. And sometimes the necessity is just needing chill time. But this chill time can easily expand from 15 minutes to hours. And these hours can turn into weeks or months of lost time over the course of a year. I'm hoping to help you correct this so that this year's goals actually stick. So goal setting isn't rocket science, but it does need to be specific. Usually when producers make music goals, it's usually pretty open-ended. You might make your goal get in the studio more or make more music. Or some of you might be bold enough to write, finish my album. Sadly, that's usually the end of it, and you expect the goal to just unfold over time. It rarely works like that. If you can't get much more specific, then it's just not going to become a reality. If you want to accomplish more, you need to know what your day-to-day and week-to-week schedule looks like. So first figure out a specific goal. It should be challenging but realistic if you have the right action plan. Let's say you want to write and finish 12 songs in the next year. Depending on where you're at with your music, that may seem like a small goal or a really huge one. For me, one song a month seems pretty reasonable. If you just stopped your goal there, you'd likely fail, even though you're probably fully capable of reaching the goal. The problem is you have no action plan and you haven't made yourself aware of the current challenges and obstacles that have held you back year after year. Keep in mind that one big goal is actually hundreds or even thousands of micro goals. So you don't want to put too many creative goals on your plate at once. One creative goal is enough for right now. As I just said, one big goal needs to be broken down into bite-sized pieces that can be accomplished in 45 minutes to an hour. If it's going to take more time than that, then you want to break it down further. Every step you check off your list is an accomplishment that builds momentum towards your big goal. Mount Everest is a nearly impossible goal, while 75 feet is doable. So how many times do you have to move 75 feet until you reach the top? How does each 75-foot goal increase in difficulty as you go? What preparation is needed to ensure you have a plan and a solution before the problems even come up? I think you get where I'm going with this. So let's make this about our 12 songs that we want to finish in a year. So 12 songs in a year is basically one song per month. How many hours did the last song you made take? Was it to your satisfaction? What were your biggest music production challenges? What are your biggest time constraints? Which bad habits need to be corrected to accomplish a song per month? This is what I call sharpening the blade. The idea is that if two people are cutting down a tree, what is the best strategy to be faster than the other person? Many people would grab their axe and just start swinging. The problem is the blade is probably a bit dull, so each swing is going to be less effective. With this in mind, while the other guy is swinging away from the beginning, you spend 25% of your time sharpening your blade, so each swing will be twice as effective, requiring half the swings to cut down the tree. With this in mind, it makes sense that you would win every time in this challenge. This is what we want to do with your music goal. So the question becomes, what can I do now that will allow me to finish a song that would normally take 1 month in 2 weeks? If you can solve this problem, you could take 3 months sharpening your blade and still reach your goal with 3 months to spare in the year. Sometimes this is intelligently learning how to correct the aspects of your music making, or even hiring a coach to speed the process up exponentially. Regardless, you need to know your obstacles and what you get hung up on in advance, so you're prepared with the solution before it even comes up. So here's how we're going to set the goal the right way. Step 1, we're going to write down all our current technical and time restrictions. Step 2, your action plan to sharpen your blade can look like this: improving your listening skills to hear the details most people miss in professional sounding music, defining your style or styles for this project, understanding the 20% of your DAW's features that will give you 80% of your results and locking them into your memory, building a sound template with samples and synth sounds that work perfectly for your style or styles of music, having a deeper understanding of EQ, reverb, compression, and delay, having strategies for structuring your songs, knowing how to get inspired when the ideas just aren't coming, staying focused for 30 to 60 minutes without distractions, setting time limits when seeking solutions so you don't end up down endless rabbit holes, and so forth. Step 3, break each of these preparation steps down to 45 to 60-minute chunks and calculate how long you need to spend on each bullet point. Then schedule distraction-free time to learn this. Step 4, break down song crafting into bite-sized steps from start to finish. You might not know all the steps in the moment, but write down as much as you can from your current skill level. As you work on songs, you may realize you need to add something to the list, so go ahead and do that. The more you work, the more accurate your assessments will be. Note how long things actually take, and once again, when you come across things that take more than 60 minutes, see if you can break those down to more specific bite-sized steps. Step 5, once you've finished your first song, you'll be able to re-edit your initial plan to more accurate timestamps and thus be able to set up better scheduling to make sure you reach your goal with the time you have left. Step 6, try to end each session when you feel like you can produce for a little bit longer. It's harder to go back to a session when you've burned yourself out the previous time. Make sure to end each session by writing down your goals for the following session. Step 7, work every day if at all possible. It's better to do shorter daily sessions than one long session every week. 1 week is a long time to forget where you're at and what your next steps were. It's easy to waste 50 to 75% of your session time just trying to get yourself back in the headspace you were in before. Step 8, keep updating your daily and weekly goals and plan as you learn more about yourself and your creative process. If you can follow through with this detailed approach to reaching your goal, you'll very likely have your most productive year yet. With that said, guys, if you're benefiting from these podcasts, you'll absolutely love my 2 best-selling books, The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production and The Process for Electronic Music Producers. You can also check out my Ableton courses and instruments at musicsoftwaretraining.com/products. And if you're looking for personal guidance with your music production or Ableton, you could set up a free chat with me to go over exactly what your best next steps are to create the best music of your life. If this interests you, just go to musicsoftwaretraining.com/private-coaching. And with that, have a fantastic day and happy music making.